Hey everyone, welcome back to the Step Out and Thrive podcast with me, your host, Bethany Joy. And I'm so excited that you get to be here today. You're going to be able to meet my amazing friend, Albert Pellissier. But before we get started, well, I want to make sure you're in the right place. If you are someone who does a lot of one-on-one connections, maybe you're a mental health coach, maybe you're a counselor, maybe you're a pastor, and you just find yourself being burned out with all these one-on-one meetings, and you're looking for a place that focuses on community, that focuses on you, and to get the care that you need. Well, that's exactly what we do here at the Step Out and Thrive podcast. And I love having guests from time to time. And today I get to connect with one of my good friends, Albert Pellissier. He's going to share a little bit more with us. And so, Albert, welcome to the Step Out and Thrive podcast, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Bethany. It's good to be here.
So Albert and I connected for the first time. Really, we've been part of the Faith to Influence community, but he did an amazing keynote at the last Faith to Influence conference, the Christian Coaches Academy Live, right? I believe that's what Justin Janowski called it, which was amazing. And we connected, and well, here we are. So I cannot wait for him to share a little bit with you. And so, Albert, let's start out with who are you and what makes you feel most alive?
I am basically a coach. I've been a coach just the last 9 years. Before that, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. And when I ran into a few of my own stumbles and crumbles when my businesses were failing, that's when I really became alive, honestly. And this was 9 years ago. I was 53 years old at the time. And sometimes it takes a real deep dive, a deep depression. It takes everything to go wrong before you really wake up to what's important in your life. And from that point on, I dedicated myself to really helping others solve the same problems I was solving for myself. I just couldn't sit on that information any longer. And so I've been fulfilled ever since, honestly.
I love that. So solving the same problems that you were up against. And so if you had to describe those problems, what would that be?
At the time, the real thing that triggered it all was I had a salon business and I
Mm.
had really borrowed a lot of money to go into it. Now, I'm not a hairstylist or anything. It's a salon mall concept where
Oh, wow.
I just rent space to independent beauty professionals.
Oh, cool.
And when I first started, it went great, and I thought, "Oh wow, this went well." And then for at some point, it just started to people started moving out, and normally I could replace them, but I wasn't able to replace them as fast as they were leaving. And at some
Mm.
point, I found myself where about a third of it was empty. I was just barely breaking even. And I knew if it got any worse, my house of cards that I had built there with all the money I borrowed was going to come tumbling down and take everything down with it.
Yeah.
And I walked into that salon one day, and my largest tenant, I was stopped in the hall. I was getting a drink of water at the water fountain, and they said, "Oh, Mr. Albert, when you finish, come see us." And boy, I just did not like the sound of that. It just, I'm like,
Mm.
oh no. And I went in there, and they said, "Oh, we weren't looking for another place, but we stumbled upon it. We love you and everything, but we're gonna move out." And I was just like,
Mm.
"Oh no, not now." I'm
Yeah.
trying to get this going. Can't you hang on a little longer? And they said I was gonna be fine, and I wished them the best of luck. And I went home and planned to settle into what I called a 3-day depression.
Mm.
But basically, when you go home to hide under the blanket because you have no idea how to get yourself out of the hole you're in.
Yeah. Wow. Now
And
I want to stop here for just for a second because this is the huge moment. Because a lot of times on these podcasts, we like to like whiz past these moments, right? We just want to focus on, but God did, the but God moments. But here I want to sit just for here, just for a minute here, because I know we have to have people that are listening. They're going, "Oh my goodness, Albert, that is exactly where I am. Like all my plans have hit the fan at this point, and I just want to go home and go underneath the covers and just give up." And so, Albert, you can share more about your experience, but right here in this moment, to those that are in that moment, what would you say to them right now?
well, I have to admit that this was a strategy that I had used in the past where I would retreat from the world basically, and I would drive myself down into such a deep depression that I became sick of myself,
Mm,
in that mode. And so when I really would push myself all the way to the darkest bottom, and there was really nowhere else to go, I
mm,
would begin to say, well, you know what? I'm just going to start going in the other direction. And so I would
mm,
just take little baby steps in the other direction and get my momentum going again. But it was a repeating pattern, over my
mm,
life, if I had to admit it. When
mm.
things were going well, it was great. And when things would turn poorly, I would get depressed and just push myself to the bottom in order to hit the bottom of that cycle and come back up again.
Yeah,
But I really
that
this
makes sense.
time, yeah, I felt like I didn't want to do it like that again.
Hmm. When you reach that point where you know what's working isn't working, that
It's
you
just
know you
like,
need something different, even though you
yeah,
didn't know what it was. But my
it's
question
like,
is, during that down spiral part or retreat part or depression or whatever you want to call that, I think all of us have those moments in our lives where we're going, yes, if you're not there, you will be soon. We always have those moments. So my question to you, Albert, is did you have someone in your life back then that you could have called and said, "Hey, this is the place that I'm in," or was it like not? Did you not have that person in your life yet?
I mean, there's probably a lot of people out there, but when you're in that space, you really don't want to talk to other people, and that is the
Yep.
problem.
Yeah.
It feeds on itself because that's when you least want to reach out to someone. Uh, you want everybody to know the good parts of you when life is going well, so you don't really want to share that. And I've seen this with my clients. That's the time they don't want to reach out. When somebody in one of my coaching groups disappears all of a sudden,
Yep.
that's when I know something's going on. They don't want to show up to the weekly call. They don't want the support. They want to stay off to themselves and hide. And I was the same way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but,
And that,
you know,
and that's kind
go
of what I
ahead.
want people to hear is that we have these moments. Both of us can relate to having these moments where we just want to pull up the covers and go, nope. And it is normal. Can we just admit that right here? It is normal to have these moments where you kind of just want to go to the very bottom and just be by yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, that is normal. So when we get to those moments and we know in our head, well, I really should reach out. I know this safe person here. I know this person I connected with. When we're thinking about that, but we don't want to, that's the moment that we really get to decide, okay, what am I going to do with this? And how am I going to move forward? Which is, I know, something you're going to talk about here later. But for this segment, I want to focus on getting to that point where you realized you just hit bottom where you knew you had to do something different and you're speaking to these people like we are today and you just have one thing, if you can only mention one thing to help them move forward, what would that be?
Well, what I did in that case was, now this was maybe only 30 minutes after I got home. I went and climbed in the hammock and started to settle into my 3-day depression, and drive myself to the bottom. And when I decided I didn't want to do it any longer, the first thing I did was I said, you know what? I have a bookshelf full of self-help books. I'm
Hmm.
gonna I'm gonna go look for something inspirational to read.
There you go.
So I'm going to do this different this time. And
Hmm.
so I had, it was really 3 shelves worth of books that I had purchased at a book fair 7 years before
Wow.
and had not taken a single one off the shelf in all that time. But here they were waiting, So
Wow.
I found one that was small that I could, get into quickly. And
Hmm.
it was, I don't know if you ever heard of Og Mandino. It
Hmm.
was a book called The Greatest Miracle in the World. And
Oh, wow.
Interestingly, he wrote that book and all of his books when he was in the same position in the 1930s, and he was depressed and he was actually contemplating suicide. And he went into a public library and he picked up a positive book and
Wow.
started reading it. It turned his life around. He ended up writing more than 30 books and became sold a million copies of books, but it was always interesting to me. So here, this guy, right? Instead of doing the unthinkable, he went and found inspiration of someone else who took the time to write a book for him to read. And then here I was in my depths of despair, reading his book that he wouldn't have written for any other reason. So I was like, oh
Wow.
wow, I'm really. standing on the shoulders of a lot of other people who had, like you said, come to the same point. This is not a unique experience in people's lives. And
It's amazing.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
there
that's
was just,
amazing
go
because I'm
ahead.
just sitting here like I know more about you than our listeners do right now, but like I have a cheat. I know how the story ends. But what I'm hearing from you, Albert, is that now you have developed resources to encourage other people.
Yeah.
And I love it because there's so many people that have that item on the back burner or that one thing that's stopping them from really fulfilling their dreams. And you have provided that resource, that hope, that encouragement for them. And so I'm just seeing this go full circle. So what I'm hearing from you is two things. One, to just realize the normalcy of being in this dark place. And not that we want to stay there, but I think so many times we have, at least for me, I'm saying I can put shame on myself. I'm like, oh, why am I here? What did I'm doing this again. I'm doing life wrong because I'm in this place. Can we just be okay that it's normal? It is normal. It is part of life to hit these places. But number two is I'm almost hearing from you the sense of hope being in this place because, okay, even in this dark place, there is still things from what I'm hearing from you that we can do in this place that can in turn return and encourage other people. And that's what you've done. Is that essentially what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and it's much easier to relate and encourage people from the common sense of pain than it is if everything's going great in your life and your client is not, or someone is suffering, right? To be able to go and try to rah-rah cheerlead them up
Yep,
when you're doing fine. Maybe you're out of the funk. Maybe you're riding a temporary high that doesn't connect as deeply with people. It's not as much understanding. I don't think you can actually help people unless you're suffering too, and you know exactly where that is, and you know how you
yes,
gotta, through it, and then you can share that. That's what people really need to know. Not, hey, look at me, I'm doing great, be like me. No, that's unrelatable. You know, you we
exactly.
we, we connect on mutual pain.
Yes. Yes. And I've heard that pain is the one thing that really brings us all together. We all have those stories, and really it brings us all together. But how we move forward is to have those people that can see through the pain and that can see who we really are and know that we're not defined by it. And that's what I also see that's in you. So I'm going to actually cut us off really quick here. But before we do, Albert's going to be back next week. So if you're listening to this podcast and you see that we have some extras, go forward. Just binge watch them. I don't care. Whatever you need to do to get your fill of me and Albert. But I really felt the need to camp out here because so many times we just run right past the pain and it's hard to listen to. But I know I just feel like there's a couple people out there that just need to know that they're not alone in their pain today and need more of that just encouragement of you can take the next best step, but to know that there really is purpose in that. And Albert, you're huge for making that into reality. And so if you want to hear more of his story, definitely listen to the next episode. If it's not released yet, sorry. You just have to wait until next week for it to be released. But Albert, can you give out your website information and how people can connect with you if they want to before they listen to the next episode?
Yeah, sure. So if you go to backburnerbook.com, I really have all the book resources. I have a link to go buy the book on Amazon. I have a little bit of my history. And if you really need to talk to someone too, I have a link and you can schedule a short call and I can be happy to listen to where you are and see if I can give you some recommendations on how to get moving and start those first steps of climbing out of the hole, the deep hole that we can get ourselves
Yes.
in.
That's awesome. I'm so excited. We're going to continue this conversation. So, as always, dare to do more than just survive, step out and thrive, connect with Albert, and know that you are not alone. And we want to be with you the entire way. See you guys next week. Bye.